Welcome to the Plato Paradigm, a paradigm shift in reading Plato's dialogues. Episode 220, Lysis 211, C to E. For the whole of the last episode, Lysis and Socrates were whispering to each other, and I presume Hippothales wasn't too happy about that. Lysis was actually trying to get Socrates to beat Menexenus in an eristic debate. He seems to have got this idea from Socrates himself, who describes Menexenus as eristikos. It would appear that Lysis is on the losing end of some eristic arguments with Menexenus, and he wants to get his own back through Socrates. He wants Socrates to do it. Socrates, who has engineered this turn of events, now pretends that it will be difficult to do. Pothen endigo, radion. From where, I said, it's not easy. From where, in a context like this, is something like, you must be joking. And Socrates immediately explains why it isn't easy. De noscar ho anthropos Ctesippus mathetes. For the fellow is terrific, a student of Ctesippus. Socrates makes it sound as though Ctesippus is a sophist who teaches eristics, but actually Ctesippus appears in the dialogue Euthydemus, which I mentioned last time, and he's a young boy who learns eristics so quickly in the dialogue that he is able to make fun of the two old men who claim to teach eristics. We may imagine that it was so easy for Ctesippus to learn eristics that it would have been equally as easy to teach his young cousin, Menexenus. Paresti detoi autos, uchoras Ctesippus. And here he is himself, don't you see? Ctesippus. Lysis is looking at Socrates, but on the other side of Lysis is Menexenus, and next to him is Ctesippus. While all this then should be obvious to Lysis, Socrates is making the point that he is not only facing Menexenus, but his teacher as well, Ctesippus. So that's a double threat, and he is going to be a laughingstock if he tries to engage in eristics with Menexenus. Lysis tries to calm him down. Me dinosso efe meleto o Socrates al ithi dialegu auto dialecteon endigo. Let that not be a concern to you, Socrates, but come now, discuss with him, converse with him. And Socrates says, it must be discussed, it must be conversed, I said. Once again, Socrates makes it sound as though he has to do something, which in fact he wanted to do anyway. And what does he want to do? He wants to converse, have a dialogos. He wants to do dialectike. Lysis is expecting a display of eristics. Now, in eristics, someone has to be embarrassed and laughed at and humiliated. This is what Socrates pretends to be afraid of. This is what Lysis wants to happen to Menexenus. Who would actually win in an eristic debate? Socrates. He is an expert at the eristic techniques, but he is not an eristician. He never wants to beat someone. There's no point in beating anyone. He is trying to reach the truth, which arguably may be reached through dialectic. More accurately, Socrates wants to train people to think critically, whether they reach the truth or not during a discussion. Ctesippus may have learnt a few of the basic eristic techniques, but he is probably not all that good, and Menexenus, who has learnt from Ctesippus, will be even worse. So it is unlikely that the discussion they are about to have will be eristic, but we should be on the lookout for any eristic techniques. Otherwise, there would have been no real point in raising the whole subject of eristics. Tauta un hemon legonton pros hemas autus, tihumes efe hoc Ctesippus auto mono hestiaston, heminde metadidoton ton logon. While we were saying these things to ourselves, Ctesippus said, "Why are you feasting on your own, and why are you not sharing the words with us?" Ctesippus emphasizes the intimate nature of the whispering between Socrates and Lysis by using the dual, which is going out of fashion already in Socrates' time, so when it is used, it's quite noticeable. The dual expresses the fact that two are involved. The dual words here are selves, alone, feast, and share. It's hard to believe that Ctesippus, and all the more so Menexenus, can't hear what Socrates and Lysis are saying, and why they waited so long before interrupting. It's as if Plato is writing a fictional dialogue, and Ctesippus has come in precisely after Socrates and Lysis have finished their little chat. Alamen endigo metadoteon. Well, indeed, I said, it should be shared. Socrates is now reacting to Ctesippus in exactly the same way that he reacted to Lysis. Lysis had told him to converse, and Socrates said it must be conversed. And now Ctesippus tells them to share the words. And Socrates says, yes, it must be shared. It's as if he is giving in to the desires of other people, but in fact he is doing exactly what he wants to do. Socrates applies this technique consistently in this dialogue in order to get his way, while the others think that they are getting their way through Socrates. Hodek arti hon lego umanthane, alaphes in oestai menexenone denai, kai kelue tuton erotan. For this one, in other words, Lysis, doesn't understand something of the things I am saying, but he claims that Menexenus thinks that he knows, and he orders me, that is, to ask this one, Menexenus. Not only is Socrates lying, but he has no shame in exposing himself as a liar. The unknown audience must regard this as a romantic intrigue. Lysis did not say that he didn't understand anything. He didn't say that Menexenus thinks that he does understand, but it could be argued that Lysis did command Socrates to ask Menexenus. By all of these means, Socrates has set up the conditions for an eristic debate. By making the interlocutor answer questions, the eristician is able to ask him the sort of questions which will guarantee a defeat of the interlocutor. By the way, we should also note that Lysis doesn't say that Socrates is lying. He's quite happy with the way things are going. None of the participants seems to think that it's strange that Lysis commands Socrates to ask Menexenus about something that Lysis doesn't know. This isn't really how dialectic works, but given that Socrates has agreed to do some eristics against Menexenus, this is the least of our worries. And now Ctesippus makes his final contribution to the conversation. Tiun edhos uk erotas. Why then, he said, don't you ask? By the way, the verb for asking, used both by Socrates and by Ctesippus, is erotao, which is to ask yes-no questions. There is another way to ask questions, pinthanomai, which is to ask for information. Eristics relies heavily on yes-no questions. The questions are leading, and the interlocutor has to say yes or no. Those are the only choices, and that is how you guarantee a defeat. So everything appears to be going according to plan. Al eresomai endigo, and I'll ask, I said, kai moi peog menexene, ho anse eromai. And tell me, Menexenus, whatever I'll ask you. Tun chanogar ek paidos epithumon kte matostu, hosper allos allu. For I happen to be desiring from childhood some possession, just as anyone else desires any other possession. Socrates says, for I happen to be desiring, but we haven't yet reached the reason why he would say for. We just know that he's going to say something, for which reason he says this sentence. Homen gartis hippus epithume ktastai, hode kunas, hode chrysion, hode timas. For one person desires to acquire or possess horses, another one desires to possess dogs, another one money or gold, and another one honors, or it could be high offices. Socrates said for again, but this time the sentence really did explain the previous sentence. Everybody desires a different possession, and then he details a few different things. What is interesting is that in the sentence we've just heard, the people desire to acquire. It's not the same as what Socrates said, that he desires a possession. Ego de prosmentauta praos echo, prostetenton philon ktesin panu erotikos. But I am mild, I would say lukewarm, towards these things, but I am very desirous towards the possession of friends. Socrates uses a Greek expression whereby a state of being is designated by the verb to have with an adverb. So I have mildly would be I am mild or lukewarm. I have erotically, I am erotic. I am desirous. Hippothales must be enjoying this.